Okay, so welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm hoping all of you guys had yummy food, and now we are going to be having an amazing time and welcoming all of you to the 14th Best Practices Meet. And please, whenever you're free, please go visit our virtual booths. And now we will begin with the parallel track sessions. There are going to be two other sessions as well happening parallel in stage two and stage three. So please feel free to attend the one which you find as the most relevant to your interest. You can also check the session details in the schedule tab in the top navigation bar of the platform. To begin with the session, may I call upon the stage the respected panelists for the session. The topic now is Security Consolidation, a jack of all, masters of none. The speakers who are going to be joining us virtually, we have Mr. Aseem Rastogi, the head of cybersecurity and compliance from Meesho, Mr. Sanjay Kaushal, the senior vice president, global chief information security officer, SISL, Infotech Private Limited, Shilpa Sawant, AVP, Cybersecurity, Reliance Industries Limited, Mr. Venkatesh Subramaniam, President Group, CISO and Privacy Head, Olam International, and Mr. Vaishno Chaitanya, Chief Security Researcher and Consultant from RAPIFUZZ. Over to you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Welcome to this session on security consolidation. Jack of all trades, masters of none. I will take a trip down memory lane. Let's go back about 12, 13 years back. The business environment, the threat landscape, as well as the security capabilities of the business environment was vastly different from what it is compared today. We had 12, 13 years back, users who were primarily in offices using company managed devices. And the business applications that they were using were primarily served out of consolidated hubs like data centers. The threat environment, while the threats were there, was not as vicious as it is today. So in that environment, we had I would say maybe tops like 5 or 6 security products, and which was fit for purpose based on the business environment and the threat landscape. Fast forwarding about 4 or 5 years, with the growing adoption of cloud and social and also mobility, right? The smack wave which was there. There was increase again, the need for more security products to take care of this vast adoption of cloud itself, along with social as well as the use of mobility. But even at that time, uh, security practitioners, while they felt that there was a possibly a need of consolidation, were still going in with best of breed products, because there was a promise at that time that there would be interoperability through industry standards like sticks and taxi. That promise, or that promised land, never came. If you look now at the threat landscape in the last 4 or 5 years, there have been significant shifts. One is that threat actors have become a lot more sophisticated. Threats are ubiquitous, and also you don't necessarily have to be a target to become a victim. All organizations today are in the information highway, and you could be actually a collateral risk of an attack on some other organization. So this is one major shift which is there. The second big shift is with along with the pandemic, we are seeing an acceleration towards this anywhere, anytime, any device kind of an access, right? And this again has led to more security products, because the overall attack surface has significantly increased with the wider business service reach. And the third major shift is that along with these security services, as the security service market itself exploded, our talent pool, was not able to keep up with it. So the number of resources that we have as the defenders, is not keeping pace, with the demand. So there is a significant talent shortage. So with these headwinds, today the security practitioner is looking for one, continuous security validation, and secondly visibility. And it is impossible today, to have both of these with a lot of siloed security products. And hence there is this leaning towards consolidation. And that is the topic of discussion with this esteemed panel today. So I will first start possibly with Shilpa. Shilpa, while there is a lot of hype, around consolidation in general of late, what is your opinion on some of the pros and cons, and what should be how should organizations actually approach this consolidation in general?
So thank you, Mr. Venkatesh. I think you set the context very perfectly. So good afternoon, everyone. So while I work with Reliance and I've been with Reliance from last 13 years, I take care of both governance and strategy. So I have seen this entire shift in terms of the threat landscape and also the kind of technologies that we are adopting. So, the security consolidation is definitely the need of the kind of products that we see, and it is definitely required for us to have those products. But at the same time, we know, how difficult is it to consolidate or very easy. So, in my opinion, I think consolidation is, in a way, very easy for a small and medium-sized businesses, but for large enterprises, there are a lot of thoughts that go into. I mean, which is we face this as of today, where one of the things is interoperability between the devices. Between these technologies. If we want to go for one solution, if it could be at an endpoint layer or it could be an access layer which is in the cloud, but then we want to see that it has to be interoperable, and of course people do provide APIs and all that, but we want to see that integration has to be seamless. So this is one of the things that I see. It definitely eases out on operations, and considering the skill set shortage that we have, so consolidation works best in terms of handling one product. You train people in one particular suite, and it works well. But if you look at the cons, I mean, I feel there are, for large enterprises, there are a lot more challenges that we will have to tackle in terms of, let's say, we had come across a situation where we wanted to replace our endpoint protection suite, but we have another suite by a different product by a different vendor at the network level. So we wanted to make sure that both have to be in sync with each other, so that there is a lot of sharing happening. At the same time, they complement each other. So we were in a dilemma, saying if we should go for a same product or we should go for a different product. If we go for the same product, maybe we'll same vendor, we will miss out on the capabilities and also on the threat intelligence. Let's say if we have two different providers, then the threat intel that we would be getting from two different sources, so which is any day better. There could be a lot of common things, but the addition, the delta that we get is very important. Another thing is that we saw was in terms of justification for the budget. Say when we want to replace this, go for a particular suite, then it becomes very difficult to go back and tell back the management saying we want to replace this product with another product just because we want to consolidate. It will become easy in the operation. So justification on the investment that we have done, that is something that it is a challenge, and we'll have to work out. It depends on the organization, what are the priorities in terms of skill set, operations, and what is the nature and the risk to the business. That also actually acts a lot. It's an important factor while considering. So. So definitely this is required, but at the same time we saw a lot of challenges. Just to give you an example, we wanted to very recently, this was we wanted to consolidate our endpoint security suite. So where we have a DLP, we have our web security gateway agents, we have EPP, we have EDRs. At the same time, we wanted to have a CASB as well. So it'll be like five different agents on one endpoint and five different OEMs, five different vendors. It definitely is a challenge, in terms of operations. But at the same time, we looked at consolidating two, three of them at least, so that you will get maybe the DLP suite in one and the EPP in that's another vendor. And we were coming out with these kind of strategies. But of course, this will depend on the focus of the organization and what is their priority, in terms of, if you know that there are a lot of threats and there are a lot of attacks happening in this particular space, and you would need, in spite of it could be an additional budget that they would have to demand. But if there is a risk, then definitely it's better to have two different vendors which will provide you threat intelligence, and at the same time, you can achieve your defense in depth strategy, where if one particular solution could not really detect it, the other would detect. So this is totally up to the business, but these are the key factors I feel that every organization should consider.
Wonderful, Shilpa. Thank you so much, for your practical insights, and I can very well relate to your challenge when you are having on your endpoints, with 4 or 5 agents. I think that's a typical challenge organizations face, where we don't want to have so many security products, each consuming memory and CPU, and there is a lot of pushback, doing testing, interoperability, etc. So yes, I mean, that is definitely a pain point, which I think most of the organizations would kind of share, with you. So thank you very much, for those insights. I'll direct it now myself to a question for Aseem, and this is around secure service edge. Gartner has predicted that by 2025, 80% of the organizations will have a strategy of unifying web, cloud services, and private application access through a service edge platform from a single vendor. So that is a kind of a kind of a prediction that they have. In fact, they have one for 2024 also. But Aseem, what would be your take, specifically with respect to such secure service edge platform consolidation?
Right. So, I mean, as I guess Shilpa also touched upon, and you also mentioned, right? So, security consolidation is underway, right? It's in a big way. A couple of years back, while discussing with peers, right, we used to wonder, is there some consolidation happening, right? So we looked for some parallel industries or other things for guidance, right? For example, we looked at iPhones, right? I mean, they were a phone earlier, there was a music thing, right? And they got consolidated. Then you talked about health apps, right? And health sensors, etc. Now they're all integrated. So it's all, everything is in our pockets now. So in the consumer electronics, consolidation has worked really, really well, where consumers are liking it. And now nobody can sell a standalone camera. I mean, for like digital camera and those real cameras, they're all gone, right? Pretty much from that. I mean, there are very specialized ones available, but still, I mean, that's for vast majority of consumers, they don't work anymore. Similarly, in security industry also, if you look at certain trajectory of say last 8 to 10 years, we started with say, and specifically with respect to say cloud, etc. So we started with CASBs, right, like Sky High Networks, etc., and then Netscope, right? So pretty old companies. Now then that moved on when the cloud caught on. I started with CSPM, like Evident.io, Dome9, they got bought, Sky High Networks got bought, right? From one end of the story, they integrated DLPs into this thing with CASB. And from CSPM side, there was another set of companies doing container, etc., like Twistlock, etc. So they and Aqua Security, they had to acquire CSPM to get into the market. So that CSPM and container story got merged. And then further along, if you look at say CI/CD pipeline, which puts the information out to production, those tools also got consolidated. So now we are looking at CSPM, right? All your CI/CD tools. We are looking at all these things that are coming at together like a security platform, right? So that's on one end, it's getting consolidated big time. Now, the other end of the spectrum of security monitoring, if you look at SIEM tool, that's where also it's getting consolidated. So, for example, if you look at SIEM today, most of them are having IP addresses, and IP address doesn't mean anything. It can be anything at any given point in time. So now, when you integrate with asset information, which is available with your CSPM tools, and enrich your SIEM, that becomes humongously powerful, because in security everything is context, right? If the context is not there, I mean, you might as well have 1,000 alerts. It's not going to matter, and you'll spend a lot of time and effort to sort through and get to that point, right, where it becomes actionable. So from both ends of the spectrum, one on the development pipeline point of view, all the way to production, and from a monitoring point of view, the two parallel threads I see in terms of consolidation, at some point in time, I guess they both will also merge. So I don't know where the market goes, but maybe just one big uh, platform remains, and I don't know what happens to innovation then, because I mean, for a single vendor, it's not possible to innovate in like all these different directions. So I'm keenly watching the market space. Venkatesh, looks like you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I was saying, Aseem, that you touched upon some a very important concept, like context, right? In the event of something happening, context and enrichment of the information, which needs like a lot of integration of our siloed tools, like to come together, like talk to each other and provide like the wider context that is so important. But the other thing also, of course, Aseem, your vision, like it is there, and I think the jury is still there out. I would say that whether it is going to be a one security platform, or it's going to be maybe a combination of platforms, right? Maybe not more than for an enterprise three or four, or maybe two or three, which can talk to each other. So yes, absolutely, we are all watching out in the space as to how this is going to play out, and we may have further discussions on that. But also, one of the topics, like you touched upon, is the consolidation in the entire DevSecOps pipeline, and that is going to be my next question, and that's going to be directed to Vaishno, due to his background, like in application security testing. So Vaishno, in case of cloud native applications, which are like in the CI/CD pipeline, for optimal security, it seems like we should have an entire life cycle of security, right from design to development, to actually the runtime environment, right? And we've traditionally had a lot of, again, point solutions in each part, like in the CI/CD pipeline. Do you see a space where the different outputs that are generated by these different tools, which are already, say, possibly integrated into this CI/CD pipeline, I mean, is there an opportunity to, or are there platforms where we can have a consolidated view of all the risks which are there in this security life cycle, right from design all the way through the runtime deployment of applications? So what are your views on that?
Thank you, Venkatesh. So, as we know, the world is moving towards a modern software architecture and modern software security, right? So, when we discuss our approach in software development life cycle, it is quite necessary to find and fix the problem in early stages, because all of the software, latest generation of sophisticated cyber attacks is spreading quickly all across the sectors in industry. Some even bypasses the conventional defenses, right? And like most industry leaders in the industry right now focused on detecting and fixing the problem rather than preventing it. So it is proven to be quite costly and ineffective. This approach is not only complicates the security operations, but it also creates many gaps in the security posture of an enterprise. Now, from a security point of view, an application security point of view, this is very crucial problem. So one of the approaches to the problem is to upgrade to a latest modern security software solution from a legacy one. So what I call it as an hybrid software security solution. So although conventional security solutions like SAST and DASH exist, they have proven to be less robust. Simply put, they can't keep up with today's agile STLC. So To keep up with the requirements we have in need, we need to use the combination of both the SAST and DAST techniques. Hence, interactive application security testing has approached with the emergency, right? So it combines both the static and dynamic techniques to improve the testing. An ideal SaaS IAST solution performs all the analysis and runtime within the within your application. So this could be done in your IDE or in the QA or even in running in the production. So by doing the analysis from within the application itself, the agent has to access to the all the code in the application, its runtime controls, the configurations, the HTTP request responses, the libraries, frameworks, and other all the components. And since it has access to all the information, it allows the IAST tools to cover more code and produces more accurate results and verify broad range of security tools, than their counterparts, which is SaaS tools and DAS tools on their own. And at last, protecting the web application against a modern threats requires going beyond a WAF solution. Yes, WAF does provide a first line of defense, filtering many threats to web applications beyond before even if they reach the target application. But RASP is a security solution which is designed to provide a personalized protection to your applications. So when we think of RASP uses the context provided by the deep visibility into these applications to the identify and block attacks that are slid under the web application firewall. So it does more than what WAF does. So along with the contextual awareness, RASP also it has the tendency to keep it has a deep visibility into the application layer attacks, zero day protection, and it also has a lower false positive rates because it has access to the code and its runtime configurations as well. So on top of the RAS solution are designed to be integrated into the DevSecOps CI/CD pipeline as well. So this makes RAS not only just easy to deploy, but it also supports the DevSecOps operations. So solutions like IAST and RAS must not be treated as an end, but organizations should always think about utilizing modern security solutions which leverages machine learning or contextual AI engine to identify and block threats to the web applications and their APIs. Yeah, Venkatesh.
Sure. And Vaishno, you would also agree that the market is also shifting a little bit towards this CNAP kind of platforms, right? Cloud native application protection platforms, right? Which is so that we, as you rightly said, are not dependent just on independent siloed risk perspectives from a SaaS tool, DAS tool, whatever it is, a container registry scanning tool, and then CWPP. So there is a market which is also trying to a platform market trying to converge all these capabilities so that we can have an integrated view at any point of time as to it into the entire development life cycle. So I think this is also another space, like where we will look for maturity into the products, but at least in the interim also, if as security practitioners, we can see, like try to see if there is some kind of integration possible between these products. The ideal thing would be to have a CNAP kind of a platform, but again, as Shilpa was also referring earlier, it's that trade-off, like between best of breed versus the reduction of complexity and enhanced visibility. So we'll just have to make sure that whatever platforms, even if we select one of them, the suite that is there, it is actually capable of delivering reasonable quality products while it is giving the overall visibility. So thanks Vaishnav for that perspective. And finally, I will ask maybe Sanjay, you come in from an SI background, and that's quite different, like from the background of the other panelists. So from a system integrator perspective, what do you see as the role of system integrators in this security consolidation journey? What is the play for system integrators, and how can they actually position themselves and help clients actually in this journey towards consolidation?
Okay, so right, as Aseem says, the team says, the panelist says, the security consolidations is a multi-layer approach, right? In the multi-layer approach, there's a multiple solution required from cable to cloud, like the endpoint, the perimeters, the web applications, firewalls, and anything with the APT solution. Because now attack and the attack are very robust. Hackers are ready to breach anything, crack anything. So the SI role is come into the picture because how to maintain between the people, process, and the technology. When we're talking of the people has to manage the technology, and they should be the right people. Nothing like the jack of all and master in none, right? So in order to, they should understand the solution, what the customer is, what is their requirement, and how to position the right solution at the right pitch. So we can have, we can reduce the risk of the customers, risk of the partners, and then yes, we can say that now this is the risk postures. Like example, tomorrow's risk is a 5, to towards is the going down, and then we can accept those risks. And it basically the right solution, like when we say these days focus is on the integration, orchestration, automations. This also is a 50% of the risk and 50% of the human intervention, like the attack we see in the past, which because of the configuration error, the human error. So right, we need the right people to deploy the right technology and understand the solution, because now solution is not like the legacy things. The one solution these days is talking to another solution like SIM integration with the multiple platform. Plus, one solution is taking a feed from the other solutions, and how they are taking as a preventive. Now the focus is on the preventive and auto prevention. So yes, skills is a very important part where the people, we need a good people, quality people plus experienced people. So like the CASB, what is the use case and the understanding plus integration.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for that perspective. So now I'll have a general question, like for in fact for all the participants, and anyone can kind of chime in. And this is around a term coined by Gartner recently, and it's more of an a strategy or an approach, and this is the cybersecurity mesh architecture. And what Gartner sees is that by 2024, organizations that are adopting a cybersecurity mesh architecture will see a 90% on an average reduction in financial impact of security incidents. So that may be a very important directional shift or an area that we may want to keep a watch out for in this entire journey, like towards security consolidation. So just regarding this approach towards cyber security mesh and what it really means, would any of our panelists want to share what their views on practicality, challenges, what it really means, what it requires? So any thoughts around this would be, I think, very valuable for our audience. Vaishno, you're on mute.
Yeah, I think Gartner is quite right about the cybersecurity mesh they have been thinking about. So basically, that will not only reduce the financial cost but also burden on the security analysts. So basically, everything will be interconnected with all the integration. So whenever there is a lack in one of the software, the other software can complement. So when we talk about the situation between the WAF and RAS, if the companies want to use RAS as well as WAF, so WAF can also complement RAS. So it's just one of the benefits of the cybersecurity mesh out there. So I agree with the prediction.
Sure. And if I may add my 2 cents, and like, and I will also pass it on to others. So basically, this cybersecurity mesh architecture, the core of the mesh architecture is there are four basic layers on it, right? One of them is basically the security analytics engine which is there, right? And then there are security dashboards by which we can get overall visibility for an organization. The third is a centralized a policy orchestration engine from where you can actually make policy decisions, and then that can be then enforced at the various points itself. Once again, centralized decision making and orchestration of policy, but distributed enforcement, right? Whether it is at an endpoint, whether it is like, at an edge network. So these would be the places where the enforcement. So this is the third layer. And finally, the fourth layer, which is kind of covers it, is the identity fabric, which is going to be there. So basically, the vision is that there will be this centralized architecture with these multiple layers, and then different security products, or it could be platforms, right? Because we just spoke about how products are like, now getting consolidated into platforms, right? So there may be a web security platform, there could be a data platform. That is why it need not necessarily be one a monolithic platform. It could be three or four platforms which have a suite of capabilities in them, and then they all talk to each other. But at the end of the day, basically they will have to take certain decisions, right? And that is all still governed, like, through that core layer which is there, and which is also giving what the CISO have always been asking is central, like, give us visibility, give me, like, continuous security validation. Is my posture accurate? So I think directionally, I think it is, I would say, a very forward looking idea. And I think as security practitioners, all of us should keep a watch out for it. And it is, I would still say, to be honest, it is not fully flushed out yet. That is why it is not really a tool. It is more of a strategy or an approach. But I think over a period of time, there could be a lot of even managed service partners who could be even building this and offering it as a service. That is just my, very similar to what Aseem was saying, that we do not know what it will be, but I'm kind of thinking that, maybe there will be MSS partners who could be like, building this, rather than every organization trying to build this. It could be like, an MSS building it and kind of offering this capability. So that could be one way, but this is definitely a space that I feel one needs to watch out for in the security consolidation one. So, any other thoughts, Shilpa, Sanjay, Aseem?
I second your thoughts completely, Venkatesh. In terms of concept, it's, I think, brilliant. They've gone one level up beyond zero trust and they have built this. But the challenge that I see is, how do we actually implement? We don't see it. We don't have any OEMs who, could actually provide this product or a service. Rightly said, maybe managed services partner or some SIs, could come into picture and help organizations, achieve this strategy, with it could be a combination of services and integration, and it could be maybe procurement or development or deployment of new products. That could also, but then I think it's a concept that actually should be evolved a bit more. In terms of clarity, if we ask somebody how do we implement it, or if we go and read, I mean, it was not clear to me at all. In fact, we tried to speak, some of the OEMs had actually approached saying they do support this mesh architecture, but then it's not a complete story on what Gartner says. It's just one part. The way, maybe it's security analytics or orchestration layer or the identity fabric layer is what they can achieve. But then to stitch all these five together is, we need some partner, or we need an approach, basically, a step by step or a phase wise approach to achieve this. Then I think this would be really successful. Otherwise, I think in 2 years down the line, there'll be another concept which will oversee or supersede this, and we'll end up adopting that. So there, we'll have to watch out this space to see what's going to happen to this mesh architecture in the years to come.
Sure.
So
So,
So, okay. I
adding
would
to
like
the
to
Shilpa,
add.
I
I
would
would like to
say,
add. Okay.
yeah.
Sorry. So I would like to add one thing. So definitely, SI has a major understanding of the multiple customers on the multiple solutions, either with the multiple OEMs, and how to deploy. And yes, you said rightly, says Shilpa, the roadmap has to be required. And that's come into the picture like managed security services, where people can manage, monitor, and maintain the house security posture, the risk posture for the industry demand, the like governance, risk and compliance, and the risk posture of the organizations, what the market demands. So that's really the managed services can also help in the industry.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
adding to
Yeah, Vaishno, yeah.
Shilpa, Sanjay, I would like to add. So just an like a suggestion. Maybe instead of giving this opportunity for the MISFP, maybe we can all the companies should collaborate in like an open initiative, like an open source project. So not only just one or two companies coming together, the whole globe can come together and filling this security void.
Interesting.
Yeah, possible, possible.
See, that is one thing, Vaishno, which we don't do as defenders, which attackers do well, is collaborate, right?
Right.
Defenders all keep things to themselves. They don't want to disclose. But all these things, I think definitely there is merit. I'm not, there may still be, of course, limitations, but definitely a lot of sharing, right, of threat intel, etc. When we're talking about this security analytics platform, which is one of the core four blocks of the cyber security mesh architecture. So the
Right.
analytics platform can still be shared, like, it could be at an industry level, right? At least, like, there could be some sharing. So yeah, there are possibilities. I mean, but as Shilpa also rightly said, like, it is still at its infancy. And but Shilpa, to that point, it is always that, it's sometimes, if you, as they say, like, in that movie, The Field of Dreams, they say that, if you build it, he will come. So if somebody builds it, definitely there will be opportunities, because we are actually seeing a lot of consolidation in the SSC space, right? Secure Service Edge, like, with
Right.
CASBs and secure web gateways and private access, like, these consolidation is happening. So we're seeing that. But absolutely right that it has to be, somebody has to come, like, with more of an integrated story, and actually a real product, right? That we all can use. So I think that's true. Asim, you were, sorry, yeah, I was, you were also, you had your thoughts.
Yeah, so as Venkatesh, right, you said, you hit the nail on the head, right? That the security mesh, right? While it's a very nifty idea, and the challenge is that defenders don't share, right, with each other. Now, for service mesh to kind of succeed, the way I'm kind of envisioning it is that at some point in time, all these different classes of products have to be standardized, like, so in terms of metrics, in terms of their findings, etc., and only then a true visibility dashboard can emerge out of it. Otherwise, every vendor will be working with their own CWPP, CIEM, and these other alphabet soups here, right? And then it, I mean, CISOs will continue to struggle. How do we adopt? What do we do? Because if the market is, target environments are moving at a light year speed, you have Fargate, you have containers, you have all sorts of services from Amazon, Google, etc., etc. How to put arms around all that, has to be built on back of some kind of standardization. So let's see. But yeah, I don't know how industry, because it is so fragmented, how the consolidation will come about on that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very, very passionate discussion. Like, the panelists here. I wish we could continue much longer, but I know we are short in time. But before we conclude, and also keep some room for questions, what I would request each panelist is to offer our audience maybe two or three key takeaways for them in the security consolidation space. Maybe I'll volunteer you, Shilpa, to start first.
So, so, in my opinion, I think security consolidation is the need. So, what organizations should look at is one area of consolidation. It could be the secure SSE, or it could be cloud products native for cloud protection. Or it could be at the endpoint. Look at one particular area and see how it really works, and then they can maybe look for other solutions. But I think one particular area, I think that would help. At the same time, it will also solve the problem of vendor lock-in. It's not that we are logged in with one particular vendor where all the services or solutions are provided by one vendor, and then it's difficult to get out of it. I think the moment it's a cloud service, it's always easier to switch. Now that everybody is going towards cloud, and cloud is much, I mean, is as good as or as secure as what we have in on-premise if configured properly. So I think there is a lot to see, and we'll see a lot of vendors coming up with their consolidation stories now.
Wonderful. Anybody next?
I
So
would,
definitely,
yeah, go ahead.
so in the security consolidation, we need to identify what are the technology and OEM to coming into the picture. Second things, I would recommend the maker and checker should be different. So definitely the jack of all, master of none story will be the laser, and then risk. We can reduce the risk of the organizations. Maker, checker, and auditing on all, like yearly audit, quarterly audit of the solution what we deploy in the industry and what is demand in the GRC and the framework, the governance, and what the framework you want to follow.
Sure.
Yeah. So I would, my recommendation for software consolidation would be, a major recommendation is move away from the legacy software, security softwares, to a modern and more hybrid approaches of the software security.
Sure. Aseem,
Right. Yeah. I mean, so I guess security consolidation is here to stay. It's not going away. How far we go, however, it will depend on, or how widely it is accepted and deployed will depend on how much standardization we are able to bring forward in the market. So I guess that's the key takeaway I would have from the session.
sure. And maybe I'll add my 2 cents. In my professional opinion, just a few things. One is that I would strongly urge security practitioners to evaluate what is there in the market today. There is a lot of some key vendors, and they have their roadmaps. What is important to watch out is a product portfolio kind of a story, right, where it is just a bundle of various products, right, just coming in from a vendor versus a platform. You should be able to differentiate and make out, like, and you should try to lean towards those vendors that have a platform story, right, rather than just a product portfolio kind of a story. So that's something that you may want to check and, like, assess multiple vendors, and as you progress in your journey. The second thing is, I also urge security practitioners to take an inventory of all their security products that they have, very similar to what Shilpa was saying. Like, let's take an inventory of everything. And when it comes, like, for renewal, right, just look at this opportunity where if something can be migrated. For example, I have got an secure web gateway migration coming up, or contract expiry coming up. Is there a possibility I could combine it, like, with a partner or a platform provider who can give me multiple things, right? A CASB and a private access. So that is the way you have to look at it for each of the security products, like, that are coming up for contract renewal. And thirdly, I mean, I would say that, it is important. We had discussed the cybersecurity mesh architecture in detail in this session. Also, it's important to keep a lookout, like, these could die away, but I don't think this is, in my personal opinion, it's not a fad. I think there would be a lot of traction going forward, like, in this space. And what we also need to watch is what Sanjay was also referring to, is, like, that there could be again MSSPs who could be offering this, right, rather than each organization doing it. So that could also be a play, like, where we could just take it as a managed service, like, along with MDR capabilities from a partner. So these are some thoughts, like, keep a lookout for the market. So these would be my key broad takeaways and recommendations for security practitioners. I think we just have about 3 minutes. I will open it up for any questions that let me just check, like, if there is anything from the audience. Let me see in the chat. If anybody can, sorry if I'm scrolling up, but if anybody can repost any question which is there. I think there was a question on, I think, managed SOC right in the beginning of this conversation. I'm trying to go down. Anybody wants to actually post a question, that'll be great for the audience. Not finding anything. So either we have done a great job explaining this, or we have completely confused the audience. So there are only two possibilities. But let me see. I think the panelists. Okay, cybersecurity mesh is beyond zero trust. Is this understanding correct? So does anybody, anyone from the panel want to take this? Cybersecurity mesh is beyond zero trust.
Yeah, I'll take that up. So zero trust is all about the access, right? How we are accessing your assets and your applications, etc., etc. Now, what service mesh we are talking, I mean, security mesh, what we are talking about is about consolidation of security tools. It goes beyond access. It is about your different tools, like we talked about for cloud, for workload protection, identity management, so on and so forth, and security monitoring. So it's just about consolidation of all those security tools in a platform which gives a wider business context and visibility to executives. So they're interrelated in a way, because you need to have good access management to have good security. But yeah, they're slightly different in terms of their expected outcome.
Absolutely, and also it is more of an enabler also. So the zero trust will have, zero trust is more of a paradigm. It's a set of principle that, it's explicit trust. Nothing is implied, right? So that is what any implementation of zero trust, whether it is micro segmentation, or it is a private access, like, to applications, whatever is the implementation, the basic principle of zero trust is like, it's always explicit and there is nothing implied, right? So the cybersecurity mesh is more of an architecture, right? I mean, it's just like a visionary architecture, more around interoperability of systems. So you will still continue, like, on your basic paradigm, like, your every implementation of yours will continue to have zero trust principles in mind, right? And that is how you should ask yourself, am I having any implied trust here? But this kind of a layer, this kind of an architecture will kind of enable it also, along with other areas, right? And of course, the cybersecurity mesh will also do other things for you, like providing you a lot more visibility also, right? So it'll kind of all come together. So it's not really completely disparate ones, but it'll kind of help, like, so zero trust will be helped, like, by a cybersecurity mesh architecture. But cybersecurity mesh architecture will also give you what CISOs today are clamoring for, which is like, that visibility, right? And also this interoperability, and having context, and a single pane, like, which is there. The other question which I have is, here is, how do you see the benefit of managed SOC versus on-premise SOC? How do you see the benefit of managed SOC over on-premise SOC? Sanjay, you
So
want to take a crack at it?
definitely,
Yeah, yeah.
so when we talk on the managed SOC, definitely the cost savings. If somebody SI is managing your each and every devices, one is the device management, second is the device monitoring. So where can be the cost of optimization when we When you're talking about the on-premises, definitely there is another setup is requires, number of securities requires, plus like the threat entails, feed, source, and also cost may be the higher than the managed SOC services. One is the SOC is managed by the SI. Second thing is SOC is managed by the each and every customer from their on-premises. So managed SOC services and the managed SOC.
Right. And it is a lot like, around your risk appetite also. Definitely over a period of time, so there is a benefit of like, a managed SOC wherein there is a lot of pooled intelligence, knowledge, etc. Right. Whereas if you're managing it yourself, of course, you can still do an on-prem SOC and have others like, manage it. But here, I'm assuming the question is more where you are managing it, whereas somebody else is managing it. Right. So definitely, if there is a very a low risk tolerance, and maybe there are certain other regulatory concerns, etc. Well, there is no other option than to go for an on-premise SOC. But as a managed SOC's benefit, like is of course scale as well as talent, like which will be there, and pooled. Knowledge and information which is there, which a managed SOC provider comes. So each has its merits, but it is, I would purely say it is more on the predisposition of the organization, and I'm sure a lot of CISOs would be passionate one way or the other. I would just leave it at that particular point of time. So these are the advantages like of each of them. So there is one other question: is what is your take on threat intelligent enforcement solution?
So maybe I'll take this one. So I think it is, again, it depends on, how much are you able to consume that threat intelligence. Is it very actionable? So we do have a lot of service providers who provide these threat intel platforms to us, but then it boils down to the point that are you able to consume it properly, or do you have a system where you can consume it and again disseminate it to all the other security solutions that you have. So I think that the I mean, providers give us a lot of info, but it's again on the practitioners and on the teams that how do we use this info, how do we enrich this, at the same time make sure that this is spread out and it reaches the right solution, and it's actionable. So that is very important when it comes to threat intel platforms. I think actionable is what we need to see.
Sure. There's another question on can MISP be considered an example for mesh? MISP can be used to share IOC. So they're different things. So MISP, I mean, like, yes, it is for threat intelligence platform, but a cybersecurity mesh architecture is a lot more. As I told you, there are four layers. Think about it as a product, like, which has got one of them is an analytics engine, right? And then which has got security dashboards. But the other very key component is the policy orchestration, centralized policy management and orchestration across all security products, right? And then of course, like, the identity fabric, distributed identity fabric, which spreads across it. So a mesh architecture, the MISP, for example, like a threat intel platform, will be a very small part of the MISP, which is the analytics itself. And why I'm saying it's a small part is the analytics itself is very big. But I'm saying the current the expectation is that this is almost like a large data lake, like, with a lot of AI ML based analytics happening on this platform, right? So that is what is one of that core layers out of the four layers, like, of the mesh architecture. And of course, the mesh architecture is just like the word mesh is, right? To this central layer, all the security platforms or products, they are all crisscrossing and talking to each other, whether it is a data security platform or it is a web platform or it's a cloud platform. All of them are talking, like, to this centralized pane, I would say, and providing it information and getting information also as a part of response. So I hope that clarifies the mesh part of it. Any other questions? I'm sorry if we have just run out of time. So I hope I have not missed any questions. What is your view on to improvise auditing techniques in order to bring robustness? I'll take this as the last question. I'm sorry, really, because it's we have run out of time. So the question from Anita is, what is your view on improvise auditing techniques in order to bring robustness in overall infrastructure and cybersecurity sanity into internal controls? I mean, I could definitely pass it on to one of the panel members. But one of the things in audit, like, which I think we are now facing is this continuous auditing, right? And it is not, we always used to do sample-based auditing, right? But now, with the availability of infrastructure for us, two things are happening. Two, I would say, shifts, like, in audits, which I'm finding right now is, and that is what I will possibly call improvisation. One is like, your ability to ingest a lot of data. So you are actually not taking samples, but you're actually taking all the data, and then you are able to do analytics and audit monitoring. Previously, again, audits used to be, I do an audit in a particular point in time, right? But why a point in time? The improvisation here is, if you got all the data and you can do real time monitoring and provide feedback, that is itself like, an example of continuous auditing. So these are some of the shifts which are happening in the audit space. So I hope, like, that partly answers or fully answers your question. Anybody else wants to take a crack at this, or this will be the last? I'm
Maybe
sorry.
maybe something I can add on.
Yeah,
What we need to look at is more of a testing that we need to do rather than doing a lot of inspection or interview based audits when it comes to cybersecurity. That's the best way you can validate if the controls are really working effectively and efficiently. So that is something that organizations should look at.
absolutely, Shilpa. Operating effectiveness, right? Design effectiveness, questionnaire based
Yes.
is one part of it. Operating effectiveness through checks is, like, definitely mandatory, as Shilpa is saying, for cybersecurity. All right, I just need to stop here before I think we are all kicked out. Thank you so much, all the panelists, for sharing your valuable insights, and thank you so much, audience, for great questions. This thing we really enjoyed, like, having this session with you. Over to you, Navita.
Thank you.
All right. See you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.